One of the questions I get asked most often is which company should I grade my cards with? So today we're going to dig into that, give you some details, and talk about a whole lot more about grading. So let's get right into it. Welcome to the most passionate content for card collectors on YouTube and possibly the whole entire internet. As usual, I am your host, Jake Roy, 90s B-Ball Cards here on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, a little bit of Twitter, and what do you know, still slacking on TikTok. But I promise you, there are things coming eventually when I have some time. So yeah, today we're talking about grading. So we're not going to waste any more time. With no further ado, as they say, we're going to jump right into the meat and potatoes. Yes, so as we talk about grading, we are talking about the 4 companies that I trust and send my cards into. So that is, the industry leader by most standards, PSA. That is, 90s favorite and nostalgic holder for myself, BGS. That is one of the vintage stalwarts and coming up in the modern game, SGC, and one of the newcomers but is trusted, and that is CSG. So those are the 4 companies we're talking about. 2 that I think deserve mention that we will brush on very quickly right here. HGA, I know a lot of people like their slabs. They're kind of new. They have subgrades, all that kind of stuff. I don't trust them. Their grades seem to be all over the place. Lots of errors, lots of mistakes. So we're not going to dig into them in the ratings. And then Tag is another one that is a newcomer to this space. I don't have any experience with Tag. I have never held one of their slabs. But I do know that Cajun Cardboard, Brian, has done some videos on his experience with Tag and his thoughts. So if you're looking for more about Tag, go and check his channel out for that. But we are going to focus on PSA, BGS, SGC, and CSG for this review. So before we get into it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay out my thoughts on 10 categories for each of these 4 companies, where they all stack up against each other, and then kind of an overall grade, or really it's an average of all of those. So in your case, you could take these grades and do a weighted average of which are most important to you. I just did a straight average. And then I'm going to talk about situations or circumstances that I think certain cards might deserve to be graded with certain companies. And I do believe that there are examples of cards that belong in each one of these holders, so we will talk through that. So spoiler alert, I don't think there's a clear-cut answer for one company for every single card. It depends on some of your preferences and other things. So with all that to say, let's get right into the first category. We'll go through the categories first and go through it that way. So the first one we have here are the slab aesthetics. So this is a very subjective. So people will have different ratings based on their thoughts on the look of the slabs and all that kind of stuff. For myself, Beckett is going to be the winner in this category. They are the one I like the best for the look of their slab. Number 2 is going to be CSG. I really like the feel of their slabs. They are very solid. They are very clear. My daughter likes them, and I like those new black flips as well. Touching back on BGS, we know that there is some changes that might be coming. We heard some stuff come out of the mint, so those slab aesthetics, kind of a TBD on if those change at all, and that could change some of the ratings here, but we're going with what we know right now. So number 3 for myself is SGC. If you like those tuxedo slabs, they are the only ones that have those. I do like the look of those. And for myself, number 4, and it was really close for me, but PSA is kind of coming in last, but not that doesn't mean that I don't like the look of their slabs. It's just those red flips sometimes do clash with certain cards, so that got them, since they don't have the neutral flips, a little bit lower on the list. So those are my rankings there. The next one is the flip design and the info on the flip. So we're talking about that piece of paper that's at the top of the slab. So for myself, it's BGS is number 1. Again, I really like those metallic slab flips, and I love the subgrades. So this is really specific to those subgrade ones, which is the predominant way to grade your cards, and that's the majority of BGS slabs that you're going to find out there. Number 2 for this is going to be the PSA. I like how uniform it is. I like how clean the information is. It's very easy to read and get through that. Number 3 is going to be the SGC. They put a lot of information on there. in a way that looks good. Doesn't look as good as the last two, but it still looks good. And then CSG is going to be the fourth one, and between them and SGC, they're really neck and neck. So you could have both of them be third or fourth in this, but similar type of stuff there. It's clean, it's consistent, and it's streamlined, and it's better than those green flips as well that they used to have. So the next category is, how do I feel about the slabs for thick cards? So they're thick slabs. For myself, BGS is the top there for the thick slabs. Number 2 for myself with the thick slabs is going to have to be CSG. In my CSG grading reveal, I did have a thick slab in there, and I really like the look of those. So that's number 2 for myself. Number 3 is going to be SGC. I also talked about that when I sent away a patch card with SGC. I like the look of those slabs when you get a thick card in there, more so than the last one on the list, PSA. I really don't like the PSA thick slabs. We've talked about it before when I've gotten some cards back that I was surprised to see in thick slabs. I don't like the look of their thick slabs. I think that could be an area that they could look to improve, but not sure it really warrants putting a whole lot of time and effort into it for them, and we can talk more about that as we get through the list later on. So Beckett is number 1 for me with the thick slabs. Jumbo slabs. So jumbo cards, we've got some back here, you can see. So there is one company that does not do jumbo cards. We'll talk about that. But for myself, Beckett. I like Beckett slabs the best for aesthetics, so jumbo cards, it's going to be the same there. Number 2, though, for this one is going to be PSA. I really do enjoy the way that PSA slabs those jumbo cards, and really, it is tough for me to pick between PSA and BGS for those jumbo slabs. I don't think any of the 3 companies that have jumbo slabs do a bad job. I think they all do a good job. But the third one is SGC. I like their jumbo slabs for like the tall boys. We see some of the Flare Jam sessions in the back there. But when you start getting into like those box toppers and the wider cards, I do not like the look of their jumbo slabs for those, because you start getting those black borders start to almost vanish, which is something that I think looks a little bit off. It looks a little bit off balance. So that's my third option. My fourth option, well, really not an option at all, is CSG, since they don't have that format to have those jumbo cards slabbed right now. SGC really is in last place out of those 3 that are still in contention for that. Okay, so the next category we're going to talk about is packaging. So when you get those slabs back in the mail, how is the package all wrapped up? That is important to me. I want to make sure that the slabs come back and they're in good shape. I also want to make sure that when I'm opening it, it is not a very laborious process for myself, and I'm not going to damage anything in that process. So for myself, number 1 is CSG. I really like almost kind of like that accordion style cardboard that they have. That was really nice. I liked the way that presented. It was very easy to pull those cards right out. You can stick them back in if you want to send them off somewhere, or you just want to store them like that while you find a more permanent solution for storage. I really like the way that CSG has stuff packaged. For myself, number 2 on packaging is going to be PSA. We've seen my struggles with getting into those PSA packages, but things are always packaged neatly and securely, and even with my struggles getting into those packages at times, I know the way that they package it is going to keep the slab safe even if I goof up. So I really like how they have those things packaged, and it's not overly done, right? There's a lot of packaging stuff there, but it is not over the top with the packaging. So number 3 for myself is SGC. I like how they kind of keep some of that tuxedo theming through their packaging. That's kind of just fun. If you like the tuxedo theming, you're gonna love the SGC packaging as well. And number 4 for myself is BGS. I did not love the BGS packaging. Tons of packing peanuts, which I can't stand. I really don't care for those, thin, flimsy but still cloudy plastic bags that they kind of put on the slabs. Now, it's nice to protect the slabs, but I have had in the past, one of my first BGS missions, a damaged slab that came back from them. So it's not full stop protection, and honestly, it'd be a lot nicer if they had kind of one of those perfect fit team bags on each one. That would be really cool if they did that. That'd be a nice little added service for their submissions. So packaging, again, like I said, CSG is going to be number 1, and Beckett is going to be last in that. All right, so the next one is auto grades. This is an interesting one because stuff has changed significantly since the last time when I was trying to look through this list. So the number one vote getter for myself is PSA. You know, you can send stuff there. They have a plethora of options for how you want autograph cards graded. If you want just the card graded, if you want the card graded and the auto authenticated, if you want the card authenticated and the auto graded, if you want both graded, none, all kinds of stuff. You have tons of options there, and you can get that numeric. I like getting dual grades on both the numeric grade for the card and the auto. So they are my first choice when it comes to auto grades. You know, really for me, there is no number two. I would say that there are two that are neck and neck for number three, and this is one of the changes that has been has come to light. So for the one that was in second place that I kind of downgraded to a tie for third was BGS. And that is because BGS recently changed their, you know, standards, I guess, that they only put the auto grade in the slab or on the slab if it's a 10. And if it's not a 10, you can still see it on the pop report. I don't like that. You know, if I'm paying to get the autograph graded, I want to see that on the slab regardless. And I just don't think it makes a whole lot of sense for a lot of collectors to have an autograph graded but not have that information represented on the slab, especially with BGS, you know, the subgrades being really their special sauce. That autograph is part of those subgrades when it is present on a card. So I don't think that makes a whole lot of sense. It you know, it's something that has kept me from sending some autograph cards to them in recent days. So tied for number three with them is CSG. So CSG will grade the autograph, but the autograph grade goes on the back of the flip. I don't love that. It's an okay solution, but I like those to be presented on the front, and so that's my preference. So that's why it's tied with Beckett. They will give you a grade if the auto is not a 10, so that's great, but I wish it was on the front, whereas Beckett will put the auto on the front, auto grade on the front, but only if it's a 10. So there's that. And then SGC comes in last place, and that is because they only put the auto grade on the slab if it's 10, like Beckett, but they also don't authenticate the autographs. They are just grading, at least this is the information that I know. If you know differently, please feel free to correct me. But they will only assess the quality of the auto, so it is not a true autograph grade. So that's why they come in last. But PSA for myself for autograph cards really is, at this point, the only option for me. So this one I had to battle with a little bit. So this is like kind of grade consistency and how strict they are and all that kind of stuff. And I ended up saying, you know, they're all about the same. They all have issues. Some people feel more confident with some. They all have had changes over the years. Some of them grade things a little bit more harshly for certain categories. So, you know, for that, they're all kind of neck and neck in a lot of regards, at least for myself. You know, for a while, I did feel as though Beckett was the one for me because I felt like that transparency of the subgrades. But we've seen some situations where, like, you cross things over from Beckett into other company slabs and the grades aren't consistent there. CSG, I know with like their green flips, their old flips, it was next to impossible to get a 10. I felt like they were very strict on their grades. You know, 9.5s and 9s is really the highest that I saw in those slabs. But with their newer slabs, I think that they've moved closer to the PSA standards. So, you know, 10s aren't impossible, but they also aren't, you know, terribly easy to get. So that's, you know, good. But again, that's kind of similar to PSA. PSA, you know, has been around for years and years and years, so their grading standards, you know, has been rumored to change over the years. Some errors of their, you know, slabs, people say that are, you know, more strictly graded than others. And then SGC, you know, we've heard stuff about, you know, how they grade vintage versus modern, stuff like that. So for that, I'm going to leave them all even. I'm not going to assess a winner or a loser, or, you know, a runner-up on any of those. So that's that one. Turnaround time. So this is a really key one for a lot of people. You know, really, if you want to get a card back quickly, it is going to have to go to SGC. If time is of the essence, SGC at this point is your option, and this does change over time. In my experience, number two, a close number two, is CSG. That is, you know, I think, I can't remember exactly what the turnaround time was. I think maybe like 2 weeks. It was really short there as well. So SGC, in my experience, has been about a week or two, and CSG has been about 2 weeks in my experience. Number three is going to be PSA, and there you have a little bit of control around the turnaround time based on the level that you send your card at. You know, but if we're looking at just kind of like their base levels, you know, PSA, you know, there have been times that they've been about a month. There have been times that they've been about 3 months. You know, we're talking about regular times, not pre-pandemic and not during the pandemic, because those were kind of outliers. So I'd put them in third, and then BGS is fourth. You're going to wait for a while to get your BGS slabs back. That's been my experience. That's been, talked about on a lot of other channels and a lot of other forums and all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of a black box. You don't really know. You can pay for higher tiers of grading, and in those cases you're really paying for a quicker turnaround time, and that is an option if you really want a BGS slab and you really want it back quickly. But those prices do get pretty exorbitant as you start moving up those tiers. So they are my fourth option when it comes to turnaround time. All right, so let's talk about cost. So these do vary based on the tiers that you choose, but for these we're going to look at kind of like the base level, and we'll talk through those. So for myself, number one on this list is going to be CSG. Their fees start at $12, I think, for a bulk. I can't remember the quantity. It might be 25 cards or 50 cards, but $12 per card. So that's going to be the best that you're going to find at this point. Sometimes there are specials and stuff like that where you can get certain cards for cheaper than that, but generally speaking, $12 is the best at this juncture. Number two on the list is going to be PSA. Starting at $19 for kind of your value submissions if you are a Collectors Club member. $19 per card. Round up for $20 if you want to include some other fees and stuff like that. Is going to be your next best option. As we talked about with all of these, you do have higher tiers that you can choose, which are going to get you faster turnaround times and other things. But for the base level, you're going to be looking at $19. They do have a declared value maximum of $4.99, I believe, off the top of my head for that. So that's kind of a caveat there. Number three is going to be SGC. Their fees start at $18. I think that is also, you have to meet a minimum quantity of 25 or 50, something like that. But they, I believe, cap their fees at around $24. So, as you start moving up in those tiers, it is not a very high dollar amount that you're moving up. So, there's that. And then that's because you have those, kind of those tiers. That's why I'm saying that those are, third behind PSA, even though the lowest PSA is 18 or 19, whereas SGC is 18. And then BGS is 18 and up. But the reason why I have them in fourth place is because while they say that you do not have to pay for your declared value, like you do with PSA, higher valued cards are going to cost you more. When you put in the value of the cards, you are also going to have to pay for the insurance based on the value of that card. So with that being said, you basically are paying based on the declared value of your cards. So $18 is basically the very base level. You're going to have add-ons on top of that. So it's not $18 all in. So that's why they come in fourth. They are the most expensive one if you're sending in one card for them. All right, the next one is going to be resale value. So this is something that can change over time, but right now, clear cut, far and away, the number one in terms of resale value is going to be PSA. If you're looking at a card that grades a 9 across the board on all four of these companies, PSA is typically going to sell for the most. So, that's going to be number one. For me, I say BGS is number two. Subgrades definitely play a role with this. If you have better subgrades, they can go for more than, a lot of their other counterparts. If you have not great subgrades, they can be closer to the rest of the pack. So that's why I'm putting them at number two. SGC, I would put at number three. There are specific kinds of cards that tend to sell better in SGC slabs. We're really looking at U vintage. Those ones definitely do carry a lot of respect in the vintage community in SGC slabs. And then fourth is CSG. In my experience, setting up a few times as a dealer or going to other shows, those are the ones that are the slowest to move, if they move at all. I personally am a fan of buying a CSG slab. If it's a card I want, I don't care. If it's in a CSG slab, I trust their grades and I like their slabs. So that's just me. That's not the general community, so that's why they are in fourth place, and you can see that reflected on eBay comps and other. So PSA is definitely the way to go if you're looking for resale value. All right, so those are all of the 10 categories that we had, and now we're gonna talk about how I think that the averages look. So based on the averages, in first place is going to be BGS overall. Second place we're going to have PSA again overall, and then it's really a tie between SGC and CSG. Now, with that being said, I think that some of these categories are more important especially for some collectors, and in some of these categories, they're more important for certain types of cards. So while that is the average, I struggle with that being really the ranking of these 4 companies. So with that being said, you have to look into which of these categories are most important for you, which are most important for your card, and kind of make your own determination. But now let's talk about which kind of cards I think belong in certain slabs. All right, so let's start with kind of the industry leader, PSA. I think that a lot of cards make sense to put in PSA slabs for some reasons. First off, if you're looking to sell the card, you're going to get the best bang for your buck with a PSA slab, and $19 a card for bulk cards. When you're looking at that price, really similar to a lot of the other companies, you're going to want to make sure that you're going to capitalize on the best value for your card in a certain slab. So that would be PSA. Autograph cards, like we talked about, that's really the only show in town if you want your autograph card graded regardless of the condition of the auto, regardless of the authenticity of the auto. You're going to want that. And then the other thing is, I would say for vintage cards, PSA is one of the best, if not the best option for vintage cards. And you can see that on the resale market. A lot of the highest selling resale for vintage cards are going to be in PSA slabs, but also they know their stuff with vintage. You're gonna, it's gonna be harder for you to find something that is, mislabeled or misidentified, because PSA really does know their vintage, from what I can tell. Beckett is the next one. This one was really a struggle for me, in all honesty, and because of that, I was almost gonna leave this one for the end, but we'll dig into it. This one's probably going to be a little bit more explanation than the rest. So for myself, thick slabs, thick cards, I go for BGS. For myself, that's what I'd like them in, especially if I think they're going to grade highly. And that kind of leads me into the next one. If you have a PC card that you think is going to grade highly, that, allure of the BGS 10 or the Black Label is very, very compelling. Obviously, those typically are going to sell for more than a PSA 10 and a BGS, Black Label 10, but they are so incredibly hard to get. It's really a guessing game. You're really kind of entering a lottery to see if you're going to get that. But if it's a PC card and you're going to be happy with it, even if it's a 9, but you think it has a chance at a 10, I think Beckett is the way to go for that. Also, like die cuts and fragile cards, because of that inner sleeve, I think that Beckett does protect those very well. A lot of these other companies will put some sort of sleeve or some sort of piece of plastic in on a lot of those, but that inner sleeve of Beckett, I think, is unparalleled in terms of its ability to protect the card. And then also, if you have a PC card that is an autograph that you're pretty sure is going to get a 10 on the auto, I like that. So, be very careful looking over your autos, though, because if you don't want that, terrible 9 that doesn't show up on the slab, then yeah, that's not the way to go. So with that being said, it's hard for me to make a case for myself. A lot of cards in my collection, sending them in at this point to get slabbed by BGS. Buying BGS slabs, I love doing that all day, every day. But paying those prices, waiting that time, there's a lot of cards in my collection that don't really... I've already had some of the more delicate cards slabbed in BGS slabs, so I don't have a lot left that really have that very delicate nature that I want in a Beckett slab. So, it's tough for me to recommend a lot of cards to go to Beckett at this point, especially with some of those kind of, maybe changes coming. It's an interesting time for myself and other people who are fans of Beckett, but I'm kind of waiting and seeing what we have in store. SGC. So we talked about quick turnaround time. I think that is really important if you're looking to get a card graded and give it as a gift. I used that for a couple of gifts this year around the holiday season. A couple of friends and family, I had some cards that I thought that they would really enjoy, that they might want to display, and I thought that having them slapped would be the best way to do it. And I didn't think that they'd be, terribly interested in the grade itself, although these cards all did grade well. I think 2 of them got 10s. We'll probably have that video on the channel. But yeah, so I think those are a great option for gifts. Also, for specially serial numbered cards, because SGC is the only company that puts the serial number on the flip of the card, which I think is a great thing. If you have something that's jersey numbered, if you have something that's maybe like the first in the print run or the last in the print run or one of ones, especially when those serial numbers are on the back of the card, I think having them in an SGC slab so it's right there on that flip makes a lot of sense. So that's one of the things. And then vintage also. I've said it before in this, I think that vintage PSA and SGC are really neck and neck for a lot of them, but I think a lot of people that aren't as well versed in the vintage market might kind of trust PSA a little bit more, but I think that if you're going to go for something vintage, it really does make a lot of sense to go with SGC, especially if you want it back quickly, because you're not going to be missing out on a lot of value there. For CSG, I think it's a great option for PC cards that you want back quickly and at a lower cost, because again, with whatever the quantity value is, $12 a card once you meet that quantity makes a lot of sense. And also it makes sense to me for cards that you think might grade a little bit lower, but you want them slabbed anyway, because you're not going to be worried as much about the resale value for PC cards. It makes a lot of sense to save some money, submit with CSG, and not really worry too much about what that grade is, and just be happy that it's slabbed in a beautiful, beautiful slab as well. And also for thick cards, I think it makes a lot of sense for PC thick cards, again, that you're not really worried about the grade on, you just want them slabbed. I think CSG makes a lot of sense to submit your cards with them. So that's what we've got. If you're new here and you want more stuff like this, more explainers or whatever, let me know. This is one of the first times I've done something like this, so a little bit new. But if you like this, let me know that down in the comments. Shoot me a DM. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. Hit that bell icon so you don't miss any videos in the future. New videos dropping once, sometimes twice a week. Typical videos are looks into my PC, occasional grading reveals, some show vlogs, reviews, all that kind of stuff. 90s pack openings, sometimes modern pack openings, occasional collector interviews, and so much more. Thanks. We'll talk later.